A 12-year-old boy named Marcus stood outside the Iron Fist bar at 11 p.m. on a freezing November night. His face was swollen, his lip was bleeding, and his foster father's handprint was still visible on his neck. He had run 6 miles through dark streets to get here. Marcus had heard kids at school talk about this place. They said bikers hung out here, dangerous men who didn't follow rules, men who could hurt people, and that's exactly what Marcus needed. Someone who could hurt the man who had been hurting him for 8 months. His hands were shaking as he pushed open the heavy door. The bar went completely silent. 15 bikers turned to stare at the skinny kid with the black eye and torn jacket. Cigarette smoke hung in the air. Pool balls stopped rolling. Even the jukebox seemed to get quieter. Marcus's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might explode. But he had come too far to run now. Big Joe was the first to move. He was 6'5" with arms covered in skull tattoos and a scar running down his face. He looked like exactly the kind of person parents warned their kids about. Big Joe walked toward Marcus slowly. His boots made heavy sounds on the wooden floor. "Kid, you lost?" Big Joe asked. His voice was rough like gravel. Marcus shook his head. He tried to speak, but his throat was too tight. The fear and pain of the last 8 months came rushing up all at once. "I need help," Marcus finally whispered. The bartender, a woman named Rita with silver hair and hard eyes, came around the bar. She had seen plenty of trouble in her 20 years running this place, but a beat-up kid showing up alone was something new. "Honey, where are your parents?" Rita asked gently. "Dead," Marcus said. "Car accident 2 years ago. Now I live with foster parents." Rita and Big Joe exchanged a look. They both knew what those bruises meant. The other bikers were getting up now, forming a semicircle around Marcus. These were men who had spent time in prison, men with records for assault, drug dealing, robbery, the kind of men society had given up on. But they all saw themselves in this scared kid. Most of them had been abused as children too. That's why they understood violence so well. "Who did this to you?" Big Joe asked, pointing at Marcus's face. "My foster dad," Marcus said. "His name is Robert Cunningham. He hits me almost every day, says I'm worthless, says nobody wanted me, and that's why my real parents died." Big Joe's jaw clenched. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Tell us where he lives," a biker named Snake said. Snake had done 10 years for attempted murder. His hands were covered in scars from knife fights. Marcus gave them the address. It was a nice house in a good neighborhood, the kind of place where people had alarm systems and neighborhood watch programs. Robert Cunningham was a respected accountant. He volunteered at church. Everyone thought he was a great guy for taking in a troubled foster kid. Nobody knew what happened behind closed doors. "We ride tonight," Big Joe announced. Every biker in that room knew what he meant. They were going to pay Robert Cunningham a visit, the kind of visit that would send a very clear message. But then Rita did something unexpected. She called the police. "Wait, what are you doing?" Snake shouted. "We can handle this ourselves." "And then what?" Rita shot back. "You all go back to prison? This kid ends up in worse shape when the system blames him for what you did?" The bikers didn't like it, but they knew Rita was right. When you have a criminal record, even defending a child can get twisted into something else. The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers, one older and one young. They took one look at Marcus and their faces went hard. The older cop, Officer Martinez, had been doing this job for 30 years. He had seen too many abused kids. "Son, we need to take photos of your injuries," Officer Martinez said. "Then we're going to that house." Marcus started crying. "You don't understand. He'll say I'm lying. He always says I'm lying. Last time I told my social worker, Robert convinced her I was making it up for attention. He's really good at lying." That's when Big Joe made a decision that surprised everyone. "The kid stays with us tonight," Big Joe announced. "You go arrest that piece of trash. If anything happens to this boy, if he gets sent back to that house, if the system fails him again, then we handle it our way." Officer Martinez should have said no, should have insisted on protocol. But he looked at those 15 dangerous bikers and saw something unexpected. He saw men who genuinely cared about protecting a child. Sometimes the law and justice aren't the same thing. "We'll make sure he's safe," Officer Martinez promised, "but he has to give a full statement." Marcus told them everything, how Robert would beat him with a belt for minor mistakes, how he was locked in the basement for hours as punishment, how Robert's wife pretended not to see anything because she was scared too, how Robert threatened to hurt Marcus worse if he ever told anyone. The young cop was taking notes, but his hands were shaking with anger. Officer Martinez had to step outside for a minute. Even after 30 years, some cases still got to him. The police went to arrest Robert Cunningham that night. He answered the door in expensive pajamas, acting shocked and concerned. "Oh, thank God you found Marcus," Robert said smoothly. "He has behavioral problems. Runs away sometimes for attention. We've been so worried." But the police had Marcus's statement. They had photos of injuries in various stages of healing. They had medical records showing multiple emergency room visits with suspicious explanations. Officer Martinez arrested Robert right there. Robert's face changed completely. The friendly mask dropped. He started screaming threats, yelling that Marcus was a liar, that nobody would believe a throwaway foster kid over a respected citizen like him. The neighbors came out to watch. They couldn't believe nice Mr. Cunningham was being arrested. Meanwhile, back at the Iron Fist bar, Rita was cleaning Marcus's wounds. The bikers had taken up a collection. They had $300 in cash within minutes. Big Joe ordered pizza. Snake gave Marcus his leather jacket because the kid was shivering. These violent criminals were being gentle with a broken child, treating him with more care than the system that was supposed to protect him. Marcus fell asleep on the bar's couch, exhausted from months of fear and pain. The bikers took turns keeping watch, making sure he felt safe. It was the first time in 8 months that Marcus slept through the night without nightmares. The next morning brought complications. Child Protective Services showed up, a social worker named Mrs. Peterson who had too many cases and not enough time. She needed to place Marcus in a new foster home immediately, but Marcus grabbed onto Big Joe's arm. "Please don't make me go," Marcus begged. "Let me stay here." Mrs. Peterson looked around at the bar, at the bikers with their tattoos and scars. This was completely against protocol. "I can't place a child in a biker bar," Mrs. Peterson said. But she hesitated. Something about these rough men caring for this boy made her question the system she worked for. Big Joe surprised everyone again. "My sister," he said. "She's a registered nurse. Clean record. Big house. She's been a foster parent before." Mrs. Peterson checked the records. Big Joe's sister Linda was indeed an approved foster parent. She had successfully raised 3 foster kids who were now adults with good lives. Linda arrived within an hour. She took one look at Marcus and her eyes filled with tears. She hugged him carefully, mindful of his bruises. "You're safe now, baby," Linda whispered. "Nobody's ever going to hurt you again." Robert Cunningham was charged with 12 counts of child abuse. His wife was charged as an accessory for knowing and not reporting. Robert tried to fight it, but the evidence was overwhelming. He got 15 years in prison. His wife got 5 years probation and was banned from ever fostering again. Marcus moved in with Linda, but every Saturday Big Joe would pick him up and bring him to the Iron Fist bar. The bikers became his family. They taught him to be strong, to stand up for himself, to never let anyone make him feel worthless again. 5 years later, Marcus stood in that same bar wearing his high school football jersey. He had just been accepted to college on a full scholarship. The bikers threw him a party. "You saved my life," Marcus told Big Joe. "We just gave you a chance to save yourself," Big Joe replied. "Sometimes the people society fears the most are the ones who understand pain the best. And sometimes family isn't about blood or legal papers. Sometimes family is a group of dangerous bikers who chose to protect a scared kid on the worst night of his life."